Here we are at Youmacon 2013 at the Crown Hotel with Sonny Strait and Lesley Scott, who is going to sit in as the interviewer for the day. Lesley?
Hello. Thank you for agreeing to talk to us today, Sonny.
Well, it's the least I could do.
Thanks.
Because of all the time. Well, John and I fought together. I was in the last war together. And, he had my back, and I said, look, if you ever have some sort of weird interview show, I'll be happy to do it.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's the least I could do, John. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's a great thing.
Well.
Fist bumps. Also,
Yeah.
fist bumping with Brad on and off all of yesterday.
It sounds almost dirty.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Okay.
He was behaving like a child.
Oh, okay, cool.
It was funny.
Still could be dirty.
Yeah. It could be. Anyway, we're totally distracted and I forget absolutely any question I had. You're a man of many talents.
Yeah, at least 3.
Yeah, at least 3. Yeah. I have, you know. You
And
have,
one of them you can talk about.
Yeah. I can talk about all of them.
I
I'm an
think
open
you can talk
book.
about all of them.
It requires
you have
certain
the
accoutrement.
Yeah, you have comic books that you work on in various forms. You do voice acting, and I think I have rumored that you were working on biography.
Oh yeah, we'll see when that comes to light. I actually wrote a biography of Wendy Feeney's work.
Okay.
She's the creator of ElfQuest,
Okay.
and I was asked to write that the year before last. And now they're just waiting for certain publishers to make a move with it.
Okay, so that's a waiting on project that
Yeah.
you agreed upon.
Already finished.
Oh, and it's all done.
Well, I might have a few rewrites here and there, but it's mostly done. Yeah.
Mostly done. And has Wendy looked it over at all, or not really?
She's trying to stay away from it as much as she can. She's seen different passages, but she doesn't want to. You know, it's like it'd be kind of weird reading this book about yourself, you know, especially before it's published.
Okay, that makes sense. And you work with her on
I've worked
Dark Horse?
I've worked with her on and off for years. I met her at Comic-Con back in 2000,
Okay.
and I was there signing autographs for Dragon Ball Z. And her table was next to our table, and turns out she was a fan of Dragon Ball Z. And it was really weird because I've been a fan of ElfQuest since I was 14 years old.
Okay.
And so she started drawing pictures of the different voice actors' characters. So I thought I would surprise her, and I drew her main character cutter and gave it to her. And she said, I didn't know you could draw. And I had been published about 12 times at that point.
Okay.
And I told her, yeah, I've been published a few times. She goes, do you want to work for me? And I went, yeah. So I got hired to draw ElfQuest, and the next year I moved out to Los Angeles and worked in her studio. I may be the first actor to move to Los Angeles not to do acting. Yeah, I do acting in Texas. I do comics in LA. But it was great. I mean, I worked as her apprentice in her studio.
Okay.
I drew a page a day, and every day she would look at this page, and she said, this works, this doesn't work, and that's why. And it was the greatest schooling I've ever received.
She was your school.
Oh, she was. Well, I mean, I went to college, but I dropped out.
No,
4 of them.
novels.
Right. Yeah.
4 of them.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
like my sister.
Yeah. I dropped out of quite a few schools, maybe more than 4. And after that year, though, I mean, it was an amazing experience. I mean, and it was just like my head was too full. And even to this day, I'm still like, oh yeah, she said do this, you know. So if you go to my Facebook page under schooling, you'll see the Wendy Feeney School of Badass Cartooning listed there.
Very nice. Okay, so you have because you have worked in both Los Angeles and Texas for the voice acting. Is your primary home LA, and then you travel to Texas,
it was that year. I moved back to Texas after I drew the books for her, and then got married. That was 10 years ago, and more than that, 12 years ago. Better remember that. And I've lived in Texas, but occasionally Wendy would call me up and she'd say, "Would you be interested in doing, you know, this for me?" Like, so I did some spot coloring, just basically laying out flat colors so she could improve on them, basically. And then she got Dark Horse to pick up ElfQuest. And they wanted her to put out a book every other month, and they wanted to be in full color. She said, there's no way I can do this in color. and she called me and asked me if I'd be interested in coloring ElfQuest. So that's what I'm doing right now. I got 2 pages waiting for me at home to color. Oh, without a doubt.
Okay.
And to be a part, this is the final quest for Wendy. It's called ElfQuest: The Final Quest,
Nice.
and it wraps up this long story that's been developing for 35 years.
It's a long running story.
Oh, probably the longest running, especially for independent comics. Yeah. So I was honored to do it, and it's a blast being able to see her work that closely for several hours, And I've been having elf dreams. Yeah.
How many more comics do you think she has?
Well, this one, I'm not sure I'm allowed to say, but it's going to be several years before this
Okay,
current
so
story
it's
is
still going to
done.
be a while that it's
Right.
going to kick out for.
Right.
And so, which came first, voice acting or drawing and writing?
Let's see. Probably voice acting, because my dad taught me how to talk like Donald Duck when I was 4. And my mom taught me how to draw when I was 6.
Okay.
So definitely acting, yeah.
Definitely acting
Yeah.
before.
My mom drew a lot of cartoons all the time just for fun, and my dad did all these impressions all the time just for fun again. And he used to come home and go, "Hi, Sonny," and Donald Duck, and I watched him one day, and I remember practicing all day, and then when he came home, he went, "Hi, Sonny," I'm like, "Hi, Donnie." Oh boy.
So it was a very fun moment then.
Oh yeah, and then he was like, "Oh really? Well, do this now." And he did all these impressions, So he did Mickey Mouse, and I think he did Yogi Bear, and
All the classic cartoon characters.
oh yeah. Well, I'm old, and
Too old.
yeah, I'm pretty old. I remember watching cartoons with my dinosaur friend, and he was a cute little guy until he got big, and we had to kick him out in the yard.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the way it goes.
Okay. In writing and you were writing biography about Wendy, were there any points where you kind of got hung up, or because you knew her so well, was it just an easy?
I didn't get hung up, but I did a lot of interviews with her and found out a lot of stuff that I didn't know.
Okay.
And a lot of things that I did know. I mean, a lot of things that we talked about. When I worked in her studio, and we'd go on walks every day. And I think probably the biggest feather in my hat, my career, is that because Wendy when I was working for Wendy in 2001, she had given up on comics. She was done. She didn't want to draw comics anymore.
What did you want to do?
Well, she was trying to get a movie made from ElfQuest, and she had some other things working, but she was just tired of the industry and whatever, And we were talking, and I'm always talking and going on and on because I find comics one of the highest art forms there is.
Mm-hmm.
And I was getting excited about this theory and that theory, and then she goes, "Damn you!" And I went, "What?" And she goes, "You've got me excited about comics again." And I was like, "Oh, I'm keeping that feather. Thank you."
Definitely.
And then a couple of years later, she put out Mask of the Red Death.
Okay.
Which was,
so it gave her this.
Yeah, I take full credit for that.
No bragging there, but
Yeah, exactly.
that's okay. So, which
I don't really take full credit, Wendy.
promises? Which, as far as voice acting, you've done years and years of a variety of characters.
Yeah.
Of course, a common question. Which was your favorite character?
It used to be Krillin, because I did Krillin for so long. And then it became Usopp just recently.
Okay.
Usopp from One Piece. And I never thought he would be my favorite character, but because he's, when I first started doing him, he was basically comic relief. But the last year and a half of recording, his story arcs get so intense, and there's
He changes.
oh my God, there's scenes where he's crying and humiliated and angry all at the same time. And I remember I was recording one of the scenes where he was crying, and I actually had a tear roll down my cheek as I was recording, and I was like, okay, that's never happened before. Not even on stage or
Never been
anything.
that connected
Never
to the
been
character.
that emotionally involved with the character. So I said, you are now my favorite character.
So he is your new favorite. Which, obviously, you have fans that love you for many, many roles, but which is the most common role that people go, I remember you from this?
It depends on where I am in the country or even
Okay.
the world, for that matter, because different places have different likes.
followings.
I think around here it's Mace Hughes.
Okay.
On the East Coast, it's Krillin from Dragon Ball Z. I went to England. I went to Sunderland last year, and it was completely different. You know, people were into some of the more obscure things, and I wonder if like maybe Funimation has a bigger market out there for that or whatever. But it was kind of cool to see that how different countries and different places like different stuff.
Okay.
But mostly, I would say Krillin and Mace Hughes get the majority of the action. Yeah.
Okay, so nobody for Lupin?
Oh, there's a lot of Lupin fans. And it
That's
also,
not the main draw that you
right.
get.
Although when I was in, I live in Texas, and I did a convention out there, and I was surprised how many people in Texas like Apachai from Kenichi,
Okay.
which is a bit more obscure one, but I got more fans for that show there than any place I ever went to. I wonder if Funimation gave him out at the state fair or something. I don't know.
I don't know.
Somehow those people know what that is, though.
It's Funimation's home, of course. It's anything they do is new.
Sure.
It's easy to get. So this year you sold out of all your comics. Last one to pick it up. Yes. Last one to pick it up. How often does that happen?
Did I sell out?
Yeah. Before the last day. Because you sold out Saturday by 7 o'clock.
usually by the last day. But that was pretty good yesterday to sell that last one. That's from my We Shadow series. It's at WeShadows.com, and it was originally We Shadows was published by Tokyo Pop, and Tokyo Pop went under. And luckily, I had a clause in my contract that allowed me to get the rights back.
Okay.
And when I got the rights back, I put it online and just started seeing how it would go.
And it went well.
It's been going really well, yeah. Except now I have no time to do it.
Because you're too busy.
Yeah, I know. We're doing Dragon Ball Z Kai and One Piece and also coloring for ElfQuest. So now it's like, okay, I'm going to put this back on the back burner for a while. Yes. I'm wearing too many hats.
But it's enjoyable.
I love it. My dad, every time I get something new, he says, "Are you going to make $1 million off this?" I'm like, Dad, nothing I ever do is going to make $1 million. But I do what I want to do for a living, and that's all I ever wanted to do.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And you make some money off of it.
Some, yeah. I pay my bills.
All we ever need.
Right.
So do you have a weird happening from con over the weekend? Strangest thing that happened over the weekend? Or that you saw?
This is pretty strange that nothing happened that was strange. It's pretty tame. I'm actually disappointed. There was nothing weird that happened.
Strange.
That's really odd.
Really odd, okay.
Yeah.
So I heard another thing about the band that you formed.
Oh, White Girl.
Yes.
Yeah. Go to whitegirlstudios.com. Yeah. That was a band that my wife and I formed a few years ago, and it's gone through many incarnations. And currently it's an electronic band.
Okay. And do you have anything that's come out or coming out?
Yeah, if you go to whitegirlstudios.com, you can check out the latest songs we have over there. And we have a gig in, I think, March.
Okay, so is that your first gig? Is this incarnation of?
No. We've had a few. We play conventions mostly.
Okay.
Maybe only. We used to play bars all the time, but that was just spinning our wheels. And I dropped out of that band. And so I called them up and I said, well, would you be interested in having another band come in that I actually am the lead singer in with my wife? And they said, oh yeah, that's much better. I said, okay, let's form a band. I turned to form a band. And so and I called my buddy Neil. I said, Neil, you think you and I could make an album in 6 months from scratch? And he goes, yeah. And I said, well, let's do it. So we formed that whole album came in 6 months, and then our first practice was at Ikasakan.
And it was awesome.
Oh, thank you.
I loved
it. Was fun.
Even though their sound system screwed up.
Oh yeah, well it's their system.
Technological problems happen all the time.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, they had some sound issues there. But I don't think they were prepared to do a concert like that.
That's probably why.
No, but it was very cool.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Lesley.
We chewed up enough of your time for the weekend.
Well-
I'll let you get back to Texas.
Well, thank you very much for having me. Bye, guys. Weird.
Thank you so much And from Detroit, Michigan, this has been the Weird Review.
Did almost forget that one.
For you.
Weird.